All right, for this project, you're going to start with a large blue piece of paper. You will always make sure to put your name and class code on the back. Then we'll flip it over. Next thing we are going to do, since we are going to be making trees, is we are going to make our grass. So I already have my green paper right here. I'm not just gonna glue that down just like that because that doesn't really look like grass. I think I need to cut some hills or something into my grass. So I'm gonna do that real quick. If you want, you can draw that with a pencil first, or if you trust yourself, you can go ahead and just go ahead and cut it. You do not want to cut off too much of your paper, so you can see about how much I cut off. Not very much at all. But now my grass looks like it has a little more action happening, a little more hills, things like that. I'm gonna grab my glue bottle. There we go. I'm just going to put a thin line of glue along the outside because we never want to waste glue. And we don't want it to ooze out, so you can see I just have a thin line. I'm going to make sure to line that up with the bottom of my paper, just like that. Hope you can see. I'm going to make sure to line it up with the bottom of my paper. There we go. And gently press it down. There we go. Now for right now, you can kind of set that aside. You're going to grab your large black paper, and this is where we're going to draw our tree. So you guys are going to do this with a pencil, but I'm going to do it with a white crayon so you can see on the video on the black paper. But what you're going to do is you're going to draw your tree. You want this to stretch about as far from the top to the bottom as you can. It doesn't have to go tip to tip, but you really want this tree to stretch most of this paper. So I'm going to start by drawing my trunk of my tree, which is just going to be two just very slightly curved lines. Hope you can see that. And I'm not going to draw that too close to the top, and I'm not going to draw it too close to the bottom because I need some room for my roots down here, and I need some room for my branches up here. So I think I'm going to draw my roots first, and that's just going to be some pretty simple lines just like this. Because sometimes trees are just sitting straight on the ground, but sometimes you can kind of see some roots happening going into the ground. And now I'm going to draw my branches. So I'm going to make one, I think, come off and come down here. Maybe I'll have one little one come off right there. The trick to branches is they're not going to be just little tiny lines, right? They kind of get thicker and then thinner as they go out to the ends. So I kind of want this to come up like that. They kind of also have branches that come off of other branches. So you guys can do that. I'm going to have a long one come up here. And there. I think that will be my tree. So you can see it stretches almost all the way from the top of the paper to almost all the way to the bottom of the paper. Now I'm going to cut that out. All right, so now I'm going to make sure these pieces get put in the recycle bin up under the board. Then I'll pull my background back over. There is my tree for my paper. Now, you will definitely have your pencil lines from drawing your tree on your paper. So you can see for me, it's the white crayon lines. You always, always, always want to make sure that you are putting the glue on the same side as those pencil lines because you do not want to see those. So you can see I'm just putting a really thin amount of glue all the way around the outside. Do not waste glue. You guys know that. I'm gonna flip this over carefully and lay this down where I want it. Now, your tree should come down to about halfway into your grass. It shouldn't be sitting on top of your grass. It should be coming down to be about in the middle of your grass like that. I'm just going to lightly press this down, make sure nothing's sticking up. If you have any branches that are sticking up, you're just gonna lift them up, put a little dot of glue. There we go. There's my tree. Now, for our leaves, this is the part that we are inspired by Dot Day. So you are going to pick either warm colors or cool colors. We all know that our warm colors remind us of warm things. Our warm colors are red, orange, yellow, and today we're also going to be using pink. Our cool colors are blue, greens, and purples, okay? So you guys get to decide if you're using warm colors or cool colors. I think I am going to use warm colors today. You're going to have larger squares and smaller squares. So I'm gonna pick some warm colors out of my larger squares. And I'm going to start cutting out leaves, but for this we're inspired by Dot Day, so we are going to be cutting out circular leaves. So I'm gonna start by trying to make these circles as big as almost as big as my square. Just like that, pretty large, okay? I can do that with a few different colors. Now you can try to make them perfect circles, but remember these are kind of leaves. These are supposed to be leaves, so if they're a little wonky like this one is, that's okay too. If you have a hard time with circles, that's why these are already in a square, because cutting out circles out of squares is much easier. You can just curve off that corner, curve off that corner, curve off that corner, and curve off that corner. I know most of you are experts at cutting out circles, but just in case, I know some people have a hard time. All right, then now that I have a few large circles cut out, then I'm going to start cutting out slightly smaller circles. So these are not going to be exactly as big as my paper. They're going to be a little bit smaller, just like that. Because what we're going to be doing is we are going to be making concentric circles, which is circles that are inside of each other or circles that are laying on top of each other. So and again, if they're a little wonky, that's okay. They're supposed to look like leaves. And I know that I have had some large circles that start, but now I think I'm going to start adding some medium circles that start themselves. So for these last two sets of circles, the largest ones and then the next smallest ones, I have been using the large squares. For these next rounds of circles, I'm going to make sure that I'm using the smaller squares because there's no reason to use these ginormous squares when we're making small circles, right? That's just a waste of paper. So now I'm going to start making small circles. You can see now I'm adding in even smaller circles to be the beginning of circles. So I have some circles that have 3, the ones that have started from the biggest circle. So this one has 1, 2, 3. The circles that have started from the medium circles only have 2. and then the circles that have started with the smallest circles will end up having 2 by the end. So I'll show you. Once you've done this next round, so you can see I've gone in and filled in every single circle every time. So with the biggest circles, they were all big, of course. Then on top of every single big circle, I made sure to add a medium circle. And now on top of every one of those circles, I've made sure to add small circles. And now I'm going to go in with my tiny, tiny circles. So we're gonna cut these out of those small squares again. So I'm going to make sure to add small circles to every single circle that's on here now, because every single circle needs a small circle. I have a lot of scraps going on right now because I'm cutting out all these circles. I'm trying to keep them a little bit organized all in one space so I'm not making a ginormous mess, and it'll be easier for me to clean up. Now it's easy to miss and forget to add the last circles to each one. So make sure you're going over and checking, making sure to see which ones still need the tiniest circles. It looks like I have 2 left that still need those last circles, so I'll put 1 there. So there's all my leaves. I have not started to glue anything down yet. If you prefer, you can glue as you go, or you can do what I'm doing and wait till you're all done and glue now. So I start with the top ones, glue that down, then you can lift up the whole thing, put just 1 dot, that's really all you need, and glue it back down. It's a little bit easier than trying to lift up and glue from the bottom up. So I start with the smallest one, put a little dot of glue, then pick up both of those, put a little dot of glue, pick up all 3 of those, and put a little dot of glue, and then pick up a whole bunch. These bigger ones, you might need a couple dots of glue. Okay, again, you can do it this way or you can glue as you go. Just keep track of the time, the amount of time that's left in class, because you do not want to run out of time in class and none of them are glued down, right? So just kind of pay attention to your time because you want them all to be glued down. You want all the ones that you've already cut out to be glued down when class is over. All right, my picture is all done. I'm gonna make sure just to give a gentle press down of all my circles, just to make sure they're all glued on really, really well and stuck on there. Of course, you're gonna make sure your glue bottle gets closed up tight and stands up straight when you put it away. All of these scraps, please make sure that these are getting put in the recycle bin under the board. The scrap bin by the door is not where we put recycled paper. Please, please, please do not put this in the scrap bin by the door or in the trash. We can recycle this, so please make sure you're putting this in the recycle bin under the door. You can see that I stuck with my warm colors throughout my entire project. Please make sure that if you are picking warm colors that you're doing the same thing, or you can always pick the cool colors, but if you pick the cool colors, you need to stick with them throughout the entire time. Then, that is your finished project. Our dot day concentric circles tree.